Hi, this is New Time on Silkway TV channel. We're back with the very first episode in 2025. As always, we introduce you with the most visible news and important events that happened throughout this week in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. More details on politics, economy, social and cultural life with opinions from the most recognizable experts of Kazakhstan and world. I'm Dauren Sagulov, and this is what you'll see today. Unprecedented wildfires rage in Los Angeles. Tens of thousands have fled their homes. Casualties have been reported. Stay tuned for the latest updates. Kazakhstan's gas sector is set to receive new investments. Chairman of the Management Board of Kazakh Gas, Sanjar Jarkeshev, shares plans for 2025. Oxford scientists have modeled the future of Kazakhstan's Lake Balkhash, one of the largest in the world. Could it face the same fate as the dried-up Aral Sea? An exclusive interview with one of the study's authors. Brazil has completed decoding the black boxes of the Azerbaijan Airlines plane that crashed in Aktau, Kazakhstan late last year. The flight recorders of the Embraer aircraft were analyzed at the Center for Investigation and Prevention of Aviation Accidents, and the data has been transferred to Kazakhstan, according to the Brazilian news portal Globo. Brazil, as the manufacturer of the Embraer aircraft, led the decoding process, which involved 3 Brazilian investigators, along with representatives from Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan and Russia. The Embraer 190, flying from Baku to Grozny, crashed on December 25th in Aktau. There were 67 passengers on board from Azerbaijan, Russia, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. The crash killed 38 people, including 6 Kazakh citizens. A government commission was formed in Kazakhstan to investigate the crash, and the inquiry into its causes is still ongoing. Earlier, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev demanded that Russia acknowledge responsibility and provide compensation to the victims and their families. In response to the devastating earthquake in the Chinese city of Shigatse of the Tibet Autonomous Region, President of Kazakhstan Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has sent a telegram of condolences to Chinese President Xi Jinping. The head of state, speaking on behalf of the people of Kazakhstan and himself, expressed deep condolences to President Xi, the families of the victims and the people of China. He conveyed his deep sorrow over the loss of life and the many injured, wishing them swift recovery. Notably, rescuers have already completed their search for the survivors and are now focused on assisting the injured. Over 45,000 people have been evacuated from the area, which experienced one of the strongest earthquakes in the region in recent years. The tremors destroyed more than 3,600 homes and were felt in neighboring Nepal and India. As of January 10, according to China Central Television, 126 people have died and 188 others have been injured. Massive wildfires in California have reached Los Angeles, claiming at least 5 lives and prompting widespread evacuations. The fire, which has spread to the Hollywood Hills, has destroyed over 6,400 hectares of land and hundreds of buildings between Santa Monica and Malibu, leaving nearly 300,000 homes without power. Schools are closed and 250 fire trucks from 6 states are being sent to aid efforts. Firefighters are exhausted and facing water shortages as they battle the flames. The situation remains critical, with 2 major hotspots still uncontrolled. Let me remind you that the fires began on Tuesday and quickly spread due to the strong winds. US President Joe Biden has declared a state of emergency and ordered federal aid to support recovery efforts.
The smell of smoke is very strong. There are traces of ash on buildings and cars. A similar emergency occurred 4 or 5 years ago, but now the fire is very close to the city. While animals are fleeing from the forests towards the city, warnings are coming in, advising people to be cautious.
And now back to Kazakhstan. President Tokayev has instructed the head of national oil company, Kazmunaygas, Ashat Hasenov, to continue geological exploration, major investment projects and the development of the oil and gas chemistry sector in the country. During their recent meeting at Akorda, Hasenov reported that oil and condensate production across the company reached 24 million tons, which is 1.3% higher than in the year earlier. He also discussed the ongoing Technological Challenges program, which aims to maintain production levels through innovative oil recovery methods. Additionally, Kasenov highlighted the construction of new plants, including the projects to increase bitumen production and polyethylene production facility, and the 247-megawatt hybrid power station in Mangostau region.
Отдельно я доложил про ключевые проекты в геологоразведке.
I reported on key projects in geological exploration. In particular, Kazmunagas has begun practical implementation, starting drilling operations in the Mangostau, Atrau and Aktobe regions. Additionally, we have conducted relevant work on gas chemistry projects. As a socially responsible company, Kazmunagas is carrying out a number of social initiatives. Based on the report, specific directives were issued to strengthen efforts in geological exploration, gas chemistry and the investment projects being implemented by Kazmunagas.
Kazakhstan has revised its oil production forecast for 2025, lowering it to 96.2 million tons, according to the Ministry of Energy. This figure is 1 million tons less than the projection announced in September last year. Energy Minister's report shows that Kazakhstan produced 87.8 million tons of oil in 2024, 2.5% below the annual target. The shortfall was attributed to major maintenance work at the Tengiz and Kashagan oil fields. At the end of last year, Kazakhstan announced it would continue reducing oil production by 2.2 million barrels per day under its OPEC Plus commitments. The cuts aims to offset overproduction in the first half of 2024. However, oil and gas expert Askar Ismailov believes that OPEC Plus commitments are unrelated to the lower production forecast. Instead, he attributes the reduction to the unresolved internal issues at Kazakh oil fields.
Мое мнение, что это с ОПЕК плюс никак не связано, потому что Казахстан никогда не соблюдал эти квоты.
In my opinion, the revised oil production forecast is unrelated to OPEC Plus commitments. Kazakhstan has rarely adhered to these quotas, only on a few occasions, and even then due to maintenance at the Tengiz and Karachaganak oil fields. I think the reduction is tied to systemic issues in production capacity, which unfortunately began to surface last year at both the Tengiz and Karachaganak fields. Back in 2023, I predicted problems at Karachaganak, and they materialized. By September, production had already dropped by 30%. When officials cite issues like problems with a waste heat boiler, it signals deeper systemic challenges.
It's worth noting that in addition to its OPEC Plus commitments, the Ministry of Energy has attributed the production cut to internal challenges and maintenance work on the CPC pipeline. Meanwhile, global oil prices have reached a 3-month high amid growing concerns over supply disruption and rising demand. During the Asian trading session, Brent crude futures climbed to $77.32 per barrel, their highest level since October 14. The recent price surge has been driven by increasing fears of supply constraints from Iran and Russia. However, this price increase remains acceptable for Kazakhstan, and concerns are premature, according to Askar Ismailov.
Для нас, конечно, хорошо то, что
For Kazakhstan, rising oil prices are beneficial, but to a certain point. It's important to understand that higher oil prices inevitably lead to increases in other sectors. Metal prices rise, transportation and logistics costs go up, and even food prices, which directly impact Kazakh households, start climbing. There is a certain acceptable threshold. A price range of $80–85 per barrel works fine for Kazakhstan. It's a level that doesn't cause harm or significantly increase logistics costs, which could negatively affect the consumers' wallets. As long as prices stay within this range, there is no need for major concern.
Kazakhstan has emerged as the leader in attracting investments in Central Asia, according to the latest report by the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. The report highlights that Kazakhstan secured $15.7 billion in foreign direct investment for new projects in 2024, marking an 88% increase compared to 2023. The country accounts for 63% of all investments attracted in the region. Following Kazakhstan on the list are Uzbekistan, the Kyrgyz Republic, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Georgia and Armenia. In a recent interview with the Kazakh newspaper Anatolia, President Tokayev also referred to the report while summarizing the year's economic achievements. He noted that Kazakhstan's leading position in the region is the result of the government's efforts to improve the country's investment climate. Continuing the investment theme, 2025 is set to be a year of geological exploration for Kazakhstan's gas industry, according to Sanjar Jarkeshev, chairman of the management board at Kazakh. The national company plans to increase investments in exploring new fields and construction gas processing plants. One of the primary goals for 2025, Jarkeshev stated, is to deliver Qatari projects on schedule. Last year, Kazakh and UCC Holding, a leading Qatari construction company, signed contracts for the development of 4 major projects in the gas sector. More details on last year's achievement and plans for 2025 in Kazakhstan's gas industry will be covered in our next report. Gas consumption in Kazakhstan's domestic market is growing at a significant pace. 15 years ago, the country consumed 9 billion cubic meters of gas annually, but by 2025, energy experts anticipate this figure to rise to 25 billion cubic meters. To meet this growing demand, Kazakhstan is prioritizing the exploration of new fields and attracting foreign investments. In this regard, 2024 was a successful year, according to Sanjar Jarkeshev, chairman of the management board at Kazakh National Company.
One of the biggest achievements is investments. We attracted about $11 billion of investments into gas projects with Qatari PAH UCC Holding that is focused on 4 major projects, 2 gas processing plants and 2 gas pipelines. This is a huge achievement for the gas industry, historical, for the first time ever, one-time investment in this large scale.
The owners of Qatar's Power International Holding met with the president of Kazakhstan just a month ago, in December. During the meeting, they discussed the progress of major investment projects in the energy sector. The implementation of these projects will be a top priority this year.
We have to ensure we deliver Qatari projects on time. There's a lot of capital projects work, a lot of engineering, a lot of construction work is going to happen in 2025. That's 2 gas processing plants in Qazaqstan field and also 2 pipelines in the northern part of Kazakhstan called Compressor Station 14 from Aktobe to Kostanay, and also Benier Bazovshin second line.
The national gas company has developed a plan to expand gas production geography, focusing on fast-tracking geological exploration projects. Over the past 2 years, 23 potential promising gas-bearing sites have been reviewed, with 14 of them allocated to the Kazakh gas.
I would say the biggest achievements are in the exploration and production part of the business. We've been able to accomplish 5 new licenses on exploration and attract new investors. Starting with Chevron in Aktobe region for KT3 Horizon, a new exploration block, which is a successful carry finance exploration contract which we signed. Again, it's a huge achievement for Chevron and Kazakh Gas.
Development of the new gas fields began in the first days of January, focusing on the Maldubai site in the Jambul region. Kazakh Gas is already conducting seismic surveys and preparing to drill 2 additional exploratory wells. Collaboration with neighboring countries has also entered an active phase. In October, the president of Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan agreed on joint development of Turkmen gas fields.
Another major milestone we've been able to achieve in 2024 is entering the big field called Galkanish in Turkmenistan. This is the 2nd largest gas field in the world, and for Kazakh entering an international project like this and also this big scale, it's a historical achievement.
In the long term, Turkmenistan's supergiant gas field, Galkanish, the 2nd largest in the world, has the potential to produce around 200 billion cubic meters of gas annually. The results of these ambitious plans could be discussed in the near future, concluded Jarkeshev. Dauren Isagulov, New Time. Kazakhstan has exported 80 sections of freight electric locomotives to Azerbaijan. This was announced during the President Tokayev's visit to the locomotive manufacturing plant in Astana earlier this week. Opened in 2012 by the French company Alstom, the plant is the only electric locomotive manufacturer in the region. These and other interesting news topics from Central Asia are in the review of political observer and expert Ojet Shekirbayev. He's back in our studio after a long break. Ojet, it's good to see you again. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dauren. I'm ready to share my top 3 news topics from Central Asia this week, just in a moment. On January 8, a trilateral meeting was held between the head of the Cabinet of Ministers of Kyrgyzstan, Mr. Adilbek Kasımaliyev, the Prime Minister of Uzbekistan, Mr. Abdullah Aripov, and the Prime Minister of Tajikistan, Mr. Kahir Rasulzada. The meeting was conducted within the framework of previously reached agreements between the heads of the three states on issues concerning national borders. The Prime Ministers emphasized the significant potential for enhancing cooperation in areas such as trade, logistics, water, energy resources, and cultural humanitarian ties. It was noted that developing cross-border and regional collaboration is a key component of this partnership. Additionally, the meeting highlighted the completion of the delimitation process of the state border between Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, along with the exchange of ratification documents for the agreement on the Kyrgyz-Uzbek state border. Regarding the agreement on the state border between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, which was signed on December 4, 2024, the importance of completing the description of sections of the Kyrgyz-Tajik state border was underlined. The Prime Ministers stressed the need for working groups to promptly prepare the final documents. Kazakhstan has exported 80 freight locomotive sections to Azerbaijan, which was manufactured at a facility located in Industrial Zone No. 1 in Astana. The enterprise was launched as part of industrialization program by the French company Alstom. January 6, President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev visited the facility, which produces locomotive bodies, transformers, low-voltage and high-voltage cabinets, among other components. The facility has produced and serviced 380 freight car locomotives, 70 passenger locomotives, and their components for the national railway company Kazakhstan Temir-Jollar. In 2024, the volume of oil transit through Kazakhstan to China and Uzbekistan reached 10.2 million tons, an increase of 70,000 tons compared to 2023. Over the past year, the volume of hydrocarbon transportation via Kaz-Transoil's main pipelines rose by 2%, reaching 44.8 million tons. That's it from my part, Dobrin, giving floor back to you.
Thank you very much. That was political observer Ozhet Shekirbayev with his weekly review on Central Asia. The volume of water resources in Central Asia is expected to decrease by 50 billion cubic meters within the next 15 years, as warned by the Kazakhstan's Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation. To minimize losses, the country has developed a concept for water resource management through 2030, with a focus on building reservoirs and implementing water-saving technologies. What is the current state of one of the world's largest lakes, Balkhash? Could it face the same fate as the Aral Sea? Baljan Samigulin has prepared the answers in the following report.
Balkhash is a closed semi-salty lake located in southeastern Kazakhstan. It is the second largest non-dry and saline lake and the 14th largest lake in the world. Scientists warn it could also dry up and face the same fate as the Aral Sea due to intensive water extraction, unsustainable irrigation practices, and climate change. The water level in the lake has been decreasing since 1960s, and glacial melt is accelerating the shrinkage.
Currently, climatic factors play a significant role, as according to the climate monitoring data from Kazhydromet, the global average temperature change is about 0.19 degrees per decade, while in Kazakhstan it is 0.34 degrees per decade.
Climatologist George Safonov, who contributed to the 2007 Nobel Peace Prize winning report on global climate change, stresses the need to focus not only on the short term but also on the long-term impacts, as changes in hydrological systems are expected to intensify. He warns that the rapid pace of change, particularly over the past 20-30 years, is concerning as eco and social systems and infrastructure struggle to keep up. Additionally, Safonov urges that climate change demands swift adaptation, calling for urgent and structural precautionary measures.
К сожалению, вот эти длинные
Unfortunately, these long-term trends over the past decades show that we are moving towards rising temperatures for Central Asia, with especially high levels of temperature increase. Changes in global precipitation patterns are also very dangerous, as some years could bring excessive rainfall, while others may experience absolute droughts. We are not prepared for this. Neither the infrastructure, nor the people, nor the ecosystem are ready.
Kazakhstan is rolling out programs to ensure the sustainable developments of the Ili-Balkhash basin. Water extraction issues have been a key topic in discussions with China based on international standards. To adopt quickly, Kazakhstan is focusing on sustainable irrigation systems like drip irrigation, which greatly reduces water usage, and shifting to crops that require less water.
All water-intensive crops in Kazakhstan consume a large amount of water. For example, producing 1 kilogram of rice requires up to 4 or 5 tons of water. Growing 1 kilogram of rice can take up to 5 tons of water from the Aral Sea or Balkhash Lake over the entire production cycle. While in many other countries rice is grown without extracting water, relying on rainfall and humidity.
The construction of a nuclear power plant could soon take place on the southern shore of Lake Balkhash. Therefore, preserving this vital water source has become a national security priority for Kazakhstan. In support of these efforts, France is providing over 1 million euros grant for the study of the lake.
What is the purpose of the study? First and foremost, it aims to conduct quantitative research to understand how much water is available today and how much will be available in the future. It seeks to assess current, past and future needs, as well as identify the key stakeholders using this water and how they interact. This study will also examine whether there is integrated management in place. Based on all of this, various scenarios for sustainable water resource management will be developed.
Notably, last year floods water was directed to Lake Balkhash to help maintain its water levels. The Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation reported that 13.5 billion cubic meters of water were transferred from the Kapshiga Reservoir through the Ili River in 2023, bringing the lake's average water level to 341 meters. The ministry is also working on a draft agreement with China to ensure a steady water supply for the lake. Therefore, the issue of Balkhash potential shrinkage remains under future supervision and discussion. Oljan Samigulina, New Time.
Balkhash, Kazakhstan's largest lake, is at risk of drying up, much like the Aral Sea, due to the excessive water extraction, unsustainable irrigation and climate change, said Oxford University researcher Homero Paltan, who has modeled over 600 scenarios for the Ili-Balkhash basin in his recent study. According to him, the situation in the region is increasingly critical, with the lake's water level dropping since 1960 and glacier melt making matters worse. Now much depends on Kazakhstan and China's policies and the pace of climate change. What solutions can be taken in this regard? To find out, watch the interview of the week right now.
Mr. Paltan, thank you very much for joining us. It's a great pleasure to have you, and welcome to our studio from Germany. I've seen your research done with a group of scientists from Oxford on the Ili-Balkhash basin. What exactly the general outcomes and results would you highlight briefly right now from the research that you have done?
Yes, so the main output or the key findings is I would not say that water consumption should stop, but rather water consumption, or in general water uses in the area, in the river, should be managed carefully.
Right.
It's a very sensitive global region, as I was mentioning before. We're talking about a transboundary catchment that is shared between Kazakhstan and China. Very much exposed to climate and water variability, meaning, and that's indeed one of the findings that we have, that identify the uncertainties surrounding the river and the region in terms of climate projections, meaning that the years coming ahead are much more unpredictable for its hydrology, and at the same time, as I was mentioning earlier, water uses in the catchment for irrigation, hydropower, energy in general, and of course environmental uses should be carefully addressed. So these are the principal findings.
Do you have particular solutions how carefully they have to be addressed?
The solutions are unfortunately not very simple in the sense that we do not have a silver bullet that would solve these solutions, I would say, in a rapid way. The solution should be a range of combined policies or strategies. some of them or most of them interrelate to, indeed, as I was mentioning earlier, strategies that help us to cope with this variability that we're noticing in the region, meaning that, for example, this year is being hydrologically or relatively hydrologically rich, but years ahead could not be like this, could be years hydrologically poor, meaning less water being available. So we learn, so we need to develop strategies or interventions that cope with this. Critically, we also need to implement frameworks including also metrics and type of policies that interconnect the critical interrelationship across climate, water, energy, food systems, and of course environmental systems that we have in this critical part of the world, in this critical river. That means that policies that are single sector oriented, if we are focusing on policies that are just for the energy sector or just for the environment or just for the water sector without interconnecting all of them, are risky, are perhaps going to increase the vulnerability of our of the river, and indeed lead to unexpected outcomes. That said, we need to integrate this type of frameworks, develop refined metrics that basically interconnect the wide variety of key sectors and users that we have in the catchment, while at the same time embracing the uncertainty, the conditions of change that the river is facing, changing conditions again in climate, in upstream uses, transboundary potential uses, etc.
Yeah, and the research was done in 2021. Now the 3 years have passed since then. What adjustments would you do to this research if you would consider this basin once again in 2024?
That's a very good question. Thank you very much for asking this. I believe that one of the refinements that I would suggest is the inclusion of future water uses, especially the new interconnections that would exist between water and energy and water for energy generation, especially for the plants that are in the region to build nuclear power plants. What I am trying to say is that perhaps further research should be done to evaluate what are the links between water security, water variability, water risks, which I was mentioning before, and energy security. Basically, should we have enough water, or are we gonna perhaps face seasons or years where we might not have enough water to meet our energy demands? Would plans again to invest in new energy sources are accounting for the conditions of water and climate risks that we were just discussing? So again, these interconnections between water and energy that are just that are intensifying, I would say, in the river, and of course with a critical environmental component here, I think need to be much more carefully evaluated in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Paltan, for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And to wrap up the first episode of New Time this year, here's some great news. FIDE has released its updated rankings of the world's top players, and 3 Kazakh chess players have made it into the top 10. In the latest table, Bibisara Asaubayeva, Kazakhstan's top chess player, ranks 9th in rapid and 6th in blitz. Meruert Kamaleddinova is 8th among girls in standard, 4th in rapid and 3rd in blitz. Amina Kairbekova holds the 10th spot in rapid. Additionally, 8 Kazakh athletes are now ranked among the top 100 women players worldwide, highlighting the country's growing prominence in the chess world. And that's it for today. All the main news about Kazakhstan and Central Asia you can find here. More special projects about our country you can also watch on Silkway TV channel. So stay tuned and see you next time.